I'm Jack Rickard, electric vehicle television. We're going to talk more about solar and point of use, generation and storage of power. I've had a good solar day. Filled up a Model 3 battery. Filled up my Model Y car. We're driving on sunshine today. A housefly is a precious creature in God's sight and part of His holy creation. I just sent that one to Jesus to let Him sort it out because I don't like them. Anyway, back to solar. This is our PowerSafe 100. Right now we're charging backwards through the inverter at 8 kilowatts. And we're making 204 amperes. That's too many damn amps. And it's because it's based on 48 volts. A guy in Costa Rica talked me into making one of these. I sold one to a guy in the Bahamas and he lost it in a hurricane. And this is ours. And I gotta tell you, it's a piece of shit. It takes weeks for us to make one of these things. And they always were the wrong thing for the wrong purpose. We were kind of sucked into it because you guys want to play with 2 Tesla batteries and a cheap inverter to get started in solar. I'm sympathetic. I understand. But it ain't the way to do this. Can you all see inside? Yeah. We're already alarming on our solar. These are 1-inch bars. Can you see that? 1-inch bars. Tin plated. We go to our contactors, more 1-inch bars, copper, a 1/4 inch thick. That's to carry the current. Now the batteries don't care because I've got 10 sets in parallel. 10 kilowatt hours per set, 48 volts. And so the battery's only getting 20 amps. Any one battery. But the group, I gotta carry 200, 300, 400 amps to make 15 kilowatts. That isn't any way to run a railroad. They get hotter than $700. And I don't even want that heat around my batteries. I really don't. That's not good. It's kind of dangerous. I think we've got it worked out on the ventilation and everything. We've run this for 1.5 years. It works. It's not optimal engineering. It's not even good engineering. This I can sell you for $3,200. It's a Sigineer inverter. It's cheap. The multi-controller in it is so tiny, they can't really do anything more with it. But that's not the problem. They changed the voltages for me for the Tesla batteries. And they added a set of dry contacts here for my frequency shift. Thank you, Franklin and Sigineer. Then they came up with a very interesting concept. And that's called, let's let Jack fund and store our entire U.S. inventory. And so instead of getting them in a couple of weeks from their website and location in the U.S. It went to about 4 weeks and kind of a minimum order quantity. And that went 8 weeks to 12 weeks. My latest is they want me to buy 30 or 40 of them and 85 days to get them. By the way, they don't have any either. They're sending people to us. Now, why would I want to spend $50,000 to fund their inventory and store them here? I don't know. I said, if you get any more back in the States, let me know. But we're out of the Sigineer business. I'm sold out on these. Turns out, it seems they are too. This isn't working out very well for them. I've got 5 6 kilowatts left. No, you can't buy one. We're going to build about 5 more of our even smaller 24 volt power safe 15s. But that's for RV guys and boat people. Been a popular thing. About the equivalent of a power wall. We're a little stronger, a little more flexible, but less software features and less able to work with the grid. Works out good for RVs and boats. But it's no way to run a railroad. This is no way to run a railroad. I don't ever want to sell another PowerSafe 100 because I don't want us building one. And we're kind of out of the Sigineer business until they have a dramatic change in tune. We'll still sell you the batteries and the controller. And our V2 controller has been our most popular product because you want to play with 2, 4, 8, or 16 of these batteries. I got it. I understand. We will continue that. But the Sigineer, you're going to have to get from Sigineer unless they have a very different concept of me funding and storing their U.S. inventory. Because we don't think this is the way to go in the first place. I'm getting old and tired, as you may know. Let's go take a look at the way I think we ought to do it. I don't know if I can be heard or not, but this is our brand new Sandi 30 kilowatt inverter. This is a bigger inverter. It's got a very nice waveform. I really like this device. We're running a whole shop, and we're charging about 10 amps, 4 kilowatts into our Model 3 battery over here. We had this up to about 24 kilowatts here a few minutes ago. Maybe if a cloud passes, we'll get back to that. We have a 25 kilowatt array over there and a 13.8 above me. 13.8 runs in phase, and the 25 runs solar edge. And today we charged my Model Y on sunshine, and we fully charged our Model 3 battery here. We're right at about the limit I have set of 4.2 volts per cell. I'm at 4.098 now of the battery. Good sunshine day, good solar. But the big trick is I've got an inverter big enough now to eat all of that. So, of course, at 6 kilowatts, I'm carrying 17 amps into the battery. 31 amps now at 12 kilowatts. And as you can see, it goes on as the sun climbs. Here we come. 18, 19, 20, 21, 56 amps. That's a much more manageable level than the 400 amps that you do with the Sigineer 15 kilowatt at 48 volts. We're at 396 volts. And so our current for the same power is much lower, and our I squared R losses, the current times the resistance losses in the conductors is much, much less. And so the heat is much, much less. This is the model I've been trying to get you guys on from the beginning. So we have several customers running the Model 3 battery with 30 kilowatt or even 50 kilowatt Sandi inverters. Here's the problem with the inverter. It took me 10.5 weeks to get it. They can make me one in 3 weeks. They're not cheap like the Sigineer, but they're very capable inverters. And the problem is they're the world's worst at shipping I've ever dealt with in all of China. I don't think they can ship one of these across the street and have it get there in less than 5 weeks. They just can't do it. So it's very difficult for us to carry them. If you order from them direct, and I'm sending a lot of our customers just to do that. They put me a nice set of dry contacts for the frequency shift. Now we added a relay and a port outside. It's 2 wires. Anybody can do this. The dry contacts you have to short. Don't put 12 volts on them. You just short them with a relay. And our frequency shift output is used to drive the relay. They also gave me a set of RS-485 contacts. Haven't quite talked about the documentation on that yet, but we're working on it. The voltages are perfect. It's a great, great inverter. Got a guy in Virginia running a 50 kilowatt with 4 Model 3 batteries. And we're just now shipping 2 to Perth, Western Australia. And they're going to get a 50 kilowatt 3-phase from Sandi. That's shipping from China to Australia, not China to Missouri. And you got to pay a 25% tariff into the United States. So it's a little bit of a mess. 21 kilowatts straight backwards through this inverter into my battery. This works talks on good, if you know Japanese. It's really good. Jayo, Nui Be. Nui Be? Yeah, Jayo. So, 21 kilowatts. We can do 30, a little more, into the battery. Also out of the battery. And that's one battery. The guy in Australia have 2 batteries and a 50 kilowatt. The guy in Virginia has 4 batteries running now with a 50 kilowatt. This is how to do it. I'm sorry. I talked about Elon Musk and how he's getting this and will offer it. He said it would be some time. There's some grid issues. There's another issue. 11 kilowatts in a kilowatt hours in a power wall isn't enough. We use 15 kilowatts in an RV, 15 kilowatt hours, and a 6 kilowatt inverter. For a house, for a shop to be, with electric cars certainly, to be point of use generation and storage of power, you have to think a little bigger, like 150 kilowatt hours, 30 kilowatts of power, and probably 30 or 40 kilowatts of solar. Now right now, all that's expensive. As I've said many times before, the prices of everything are graven in jello. I don't have 25 grand in 2 batteries and this inverter. I can't sell it to you for that. It takes days for my guys to put one together. Hell, it takes 2 days for us to crate it. This won't work. But I don't have that much in it. In the future, scaled up in volume, 30 kilowatts of power, 150 kilowatt hours of storage, 40 kilowatts of solar will be viable. Is it ever going to be like buying a washing machine? I don't think so. But in the scale of a house, if you had 60 grand in your power plant, that would work, especially if it's also your roof. You see what I mean? So, this is the future. I get to live it now. I get to tell you about it now. You might not want to just go write a check unless you're in the Bahamas, have a big farm, a resort, or in Costa Rica, Perth Western Australia. Points northeast, south, and west, and have a power problem. We can't make them fast enough right now. No, there's no discount for 2. We still have to build 2. We still have to crate 2. There's 5 of us in the shop. You got it? But properly scaled up, the price will change. And this is how it'll go. With regards to the earnings call, I was noting that Elon Musk had promoted the concept of point-of-use generation storage to the beginning of the call. He's on point. He's got it. I can sell it to you, and you and I can do anything we want. He's a corporation, has 66,000 employees. He can't just run willy-nilly looking stuff up. He's got to work it out with the laws of the state, the county, the grid, and it's going to be non-trivial. So he can do this for you in 5 years. I can do it for you today. But you gotta be a little outlaw. We void warranties, okay? I had an email from a buddy of the guy in Virginia who wanted to know about it, wanted to know about the warranty. I said it's a used car battery. If you break it, you own both halves. You got it? I had Richard call him a couple days later. He's a Tesla Powerwall installer. He wasn't shopping. He was checking us out. And that's okay. So, here's our brand new 20 kilowatts going into the battery right now. My car is at 96%. I'm driving on sunshine. My shop's running on sunshine. That's one Tesla Model 3 battery laying over here on a table. This is the way to do it, guys. Sigineer and 48 volts, it's not. That's the stopgap. That's for you to experiment with. That's the two little projects. Real power for a house looks like this. And the future, you're going to have to get with heating and air conditioning using ground loop, geothermal, and some other efficiencies, LED light bulbs, that sort of thing. Well, that's going to happen anyway. The grid's going to train you real good on how to pay for that. When you want to get off the grid, we haven't been hooked up to the grid for weeks. We're a little selfish that way. Stay with us. I'm here with two Tesla Model 3 batteries. I like them a lot better than the Model S full packs because of the way we connect to them with the power connectors. That way we connect to them all the way around. And here's two of our controllers, kind of open. Smarmy little housefly season. We're working on these two for a group in Perth, Western Australia, and it's going quite well. They're much easier to prepare and deal with than the Tesla Model S was. And frankly, they're a lot better battery. Haven't done a Y yet. I don't really expect a lot of difference in the battery. So there's a plentiful supply of these. I've had many people note that they can get them cheaper than I'm selling them. Why would that be? Well, Tesla does a lot of inline changes to their hardware and their software. There are some hardware issues with the batteries, and we have to open them up and make some changes. And then we have to test that battery with our software and hardware. And there's no way I'm going to try to support a battery that we haven't seen operate in front of my eyes at least once before we send it. Now I know you guys are buying batteries, and I get 5 emails a day begging for the controller. Man, I'm such a greedy bastard that I won't let you do that. Except that's none of the issues. I cannot technically walk you through the process of making it work remotely. For one thing, you solar guys are not my EV guys. I don't mean to be insulting, but you're just not. Okay? I can talk to EV guys pretty good. Solar guys are a little mystery to me. What you know about electricity is a little mystifying to me. But you can't even take the lid off the pinhouse of this battery without special tooling that's hard to get. No, I don't have time to go chase down the link and tell you where to get it. I did that in a video. Go look it up. Go watch the video. You can't even take the lid off, much less perform surgery on this battery to make it work. You overestimate my technical abilities to design a product that you can use by plug and play. It just isn't there. You're going to have to do some configuration. You do have to be able to work a Windows laptop and a USB cable. I'm sorry, I don't do Windows support. ASCII text, that's all we're asking. If you can't do that, I can't help you. I can't even sell you what we're selling. So, the process of begging really, really hard for just a controller, you're overestimating my technical abilities to design, but you're way overestimating my technical abilities to walk you through the process. It's a little more complicated than I quite described. Worse, we've got at least 3 kinds of software and a couple versions of the hardware. It's just not practical. What you're legitimately wanting, and I recognize the legitimacy of what you desire, but you're in past my technical abilities to deliver. It's not I don't want you to have it, I can't. It would be a product support nightmare of epic proportions, and you would wind up with money tied up in one of our products that I'm not sending it back. And you're not going to be happy. And I don't want that. So, there it is. We have to do work on the batteries, and we have to crate them, and we have to ship them. And we're a few guys. The good news is this is a really good battery, about 75 kilowatt hours. It's much smaller, much lighter, much more manageable than the 85 kilowatt hour Tesla Model S battery. Has a lot better connections. It's sturdier. It's just better. And there's a lot more of them. And so, for a long time, there's going to be plenty of them. And they make an excellent power source for solar. That said, they make an excellent power storage for solar too. That said, they operate at 300 to 400 volts DC. And so, the current is 1/10 of what it is with the cheaper 48 volt stuff you're so desperate to play with. That's a dead end. It was always a dead end. 5 years from now, there won't be any 48 volt systems. It's just a dead end. The 300 to 400 volts of the EV was not an accident. It's the peak-to-peak voltage of our 240 volts AC that you charge from and that you need to make to run your house. It's symmetric. 1.414 times 240 is your base voltage. And so 300 volts is a dead battery and 400 volts is a full battery. I didn't do it. Elon didn't do it. It comes from your U.S. It comes from the U.S. standard for voltage, AC voltage in any business, shop, or home. And it's pretty handy voltage because if you go up to the DC version, it's even less current than it is in the AC. And that means lower heat losses, lighter conductors that are easier to manage, easier to connect, less expensive, less heat. In every way, they're just better. It's just better. And so we're going to increasingly focus. Largely, viewer driven, we're doing 2 to 4 of these a week now. It's about all we have time to do. But it needs a different inverter. Inverters are more expensive. The inverters are more expensive. They're much more powerful. And they're much more stable. We still get ours from China. Maybe there's a U.S. maker of this, but I haven't found anything that's even viable in price and specification. So we use a Sandi inverter. I love it and I hate it. Here I am in front of the casket. Our Australian customer decided on one instead of 2 batteries for their project. I found out they did not order a 50 kilowatt 3-phase, but a 40 kilowatt 3-phase from Sandi. We do a modification to the Sandi here, and I would urge them not to connect our 12-volt frequency output to the frequency shift contacts. There you have to use an intermediate relay to short those contacts. Don't put 12 volts into them. It'll break the Sandi. We use a $2 Bosch automotive relay. Works fine. Interesting conversation with a guy named Cameron Future, that's what he calls himself by email, works for Mark McKay Drilling in Western Australia, and that's where this is going. Turns out we're similar in age, and I was relating to him that we, at the age of 20, 1975, I was on the USS Midway, and we spent a week in Perth. Actually got extended a day for the opening day of their racetrack. They're very much into horse racing in Western Australia. It's a big deal. And the mayor invited our captain to the opening day, and he kind of had to accept. The Admiral told him it was not optional. And so we held over maybe 2 days beyond what was originally planned in Perth, Australia. The guy said his family actually had a horse in one of those races on opening day. And so we started talking about my experience in Australia. Now, I told him a story that I think is mostly true. You have to understand this was 45 years ago. And some of my stories get embellished over time. But the way I remember it was me and some mates from my ship wore out the waterfront bars at the port and decided one night to go uptown. And we went to a nightclub, apparently a pretty popular one, called I don't remember what it was called. Cameron actually did. But we saw, this is nightclub, beer, and a stage show. And the show was by a New Zealand guy named Ricky May. It's kind of a Hawaiian theme. And he invited 3 of us up on the stage. And they put grass skirts on us. And then did some stuff to kind of belittle us and make fun of us in the grass skirts. And we went along with all that. Very good. And to our humiliation and the delight of the crowd. And when our part was done, he asked us to go back to our seats. I looked at my guys, 2 guys with me. We grabbed Ricky May and threw him from the stage aerially, crashing him into a table full of people and beer. I don't think he was as badly hurt as he kind of comically played, but he might have, taken a blow, flying through the air and landing on a table. We turned to the band and told them that we really liked a song by America called Sister Golden Hair, and we hoped that they did too. But if any of them just didn't know the song, we'd be happy to treat them to an aerial trip to Ricky May's landing spot. Turns out they all knew the song. Called 2 more of my mates up on stage, and we started a rousing and enthusiastic, if not precisely on key, version of Sister Golden Hair. Maybe did Landslide, Horse with No Name, Hotel California. Any of these songs ring a bell? You would have to be our age. We sang for 40 minutes, as I recall, until we were sweat-drenched and shot physically. Along the way, they built a pyramid of beer pitchers in front of us. Louis Mayer taught a beer pitcher how to act like a shot. He's got a special trick. He doesn't really swallow. He just turns it up and pours it directly into his stomach. He did that between songs. Of course, about 2 songs later, he threw up all over the stage. But the crowd loved it. They went berserk, as I recall. When we got done, we invited Mr. May back up on the stage. He kind of limped up there. I don't think he was hurt that bad. I think he was playing it for comic effect. And we gave him his show back and went to our table. And again, we were just buried. They must have sent 100 pitchers of beer to our table. There was no place to put them. It was a good night. Dennis Crowdis, Louis Mayer, Gary Aprazis, maybe. A couple others. We had a ball in Australia. Cameron knew the club that was played at and updated me. Apparently Ricky May went on to like a 30-year successful career doing that show. I don't think he ever sang Sister Golden Air, though. He did tell the crowd that he would invite us to join their show after our enlistments were up. And then he kind of added, way after. So he was a great sport about the whole thing. And a good time was had by all. It's a precious memory. Not too sure how much of it's actually true at this point, but it sure does sound good. Anyway, they're getting, we're shipping to the West Coast to their logistics company, which is how we usually ship to Australia. They containerize a bunch of shipments, move it there by sea, and then disperse it in Australia. That's the way it's done. It winds up being a third or a half of what we could do to ship to Australia. And so that's kind of that. A little overwhelmed by the comments on our last two videos. Had I only known, I would have announced lung cancer 5 years ago. I didn't really have it then, but how could you tell? The other aspect was a lot of requests for me to comment on Nicola. I don't quite know how to respond. If I spend time on all of the failed electric vehicle companies and ideas that I've had some actually deep knowledge of in the last 11 years, we would have had no time to talk to you about the stuff that matters and might win. Nicola, my bare glance at it, is a complete scam of the Barney Madoff type. This kid has no idea what he's talking about. They haven't sold anything. I did put options on them at $77. They're at $32 when I got out. I made a little money on them because they're a scam. I started prior to EV with a deep dive into hydrogen. I know quite a bit about hydrogen, probably more than I ought to. My interest was in using kind of a magic affinity between, discovered by Shell Oil, actually, between platinum as a catalyst and titanium dioxide and water to use a fairly narrow band of UV, like 285 to 320 nanometers, causes a extraction, a separation of hydrogen and oxygen, and it ionizes the oxygen where it acts like a bleach or disinfectant and gives off hydrogen without electrolysis. Today, they call that photocatalytics, and there's a lot of research done on it, and it's fascinating work. There's a lot of problems with hydrogen. It's very small, and so it passes through everything. It has energy in it, but not very much. So to do useful things, you have to pressurize it a lot, like really a lot, much more so than natural gas, for example. And so you wind up with very high pressure containers. Then two, nothing will actually contain it. It's so small, it migrates through steel. And then slowly, of course, but in so doing, it has a secondary effect that it embrittles steel. After a couple years, you can tap the tank with a hammer and it'll shatter. So, to use it in a car, you're building a bomb. They did do some hydrogen filling stations, most of which blew up, terrorizing the local neighborhood. It's a loser. It's trillions of dollars to do a hydrogen distribution system. Or you can do electrolysis on site, which is an order of magnitude less efficient than taking the same electricity and putting it in a car. Hydrogen is a total loser for transportation. He's going to build 700 stations. He's built 0. He has a better battery than Tesla. Well, in making that claim, I know one thing about Nikola. They got nobody on board that knows squat about batteries. They absolutely zero possibility of any battery knowledge in the company. So the entire thing is a scam. I don't have to look further. I know about hydrogen. I know about batteries, and they don't have any knowledge on either topic that's apparent to me in anything they've said. But I'm embarrassed to waste your time listening to this. We don't spend any time talking about losers. Some, I did point out the amazing opportunity in off-lease Nissan Leafs several years ago. And in the last video, I pointed you to how to buy a brand new Bolt for $24,000, which I got from Kevin Smith and Byron Isbenhard. That's why they were in St. Louis to meet us at the Tesla dealership. Those are bargains. The reason they're bargains is they're losers. That's what it is. They lost. It's a waste of time for me to opine on why companies are losers. There's so many of them, and they have so many ways of losing. I don't care. So over the years, we've kind of gradually gone from a wide coverage of all EV entries down to Tesla. I didn't do that. Tesla did. They did. If you want a cheap electric car company, look at Ford. They're going to do an electric Ford F-150, and they're $6.50 a share. Because they're a loser. We don't talk about it much. A lot of response to discussion of the Tesla earnings call. Not much to add. We're in a quiet phase right now. Everybody, Amazon, Tesla, they're all trading sideways at the moment. Today, kind of a loss. Good time to buy. That you get about a month more of that, and I think both Tesla and Amazon will explode upwards again or downwards again. Not too sure, but it'll change. SpaceX, fascinating to me. Not Tesla. You can't buy stock in it, and you can't buy a rocket from them, really, in any affordable sense. But an interesting thing, nonetheless. They had a dramatic celebration of delivering 2 astronauts to the International Space Station and safely returning them in a splashdown capsule. Weren't you all excited about that? Somehow I wasn't. Reminiscent of the Gemini space program in the 60s. That's how we put people in the air. Since then, we've had the space shuttle. Put a half a dozen people and cargo in a space pickup, launched that, and we landed on a runway. They blew a couple of them up. Elon Musk knows that trick. He's blown lots of them up. His rockets. I didn't find Dragon launch even a little bit inspiring. It was so ho-hum, I could barely pay attention. But I believe it was an act of legerdemain. It's a magic trick, which you do by misdirection. This week, they very quietly launched 67 satellites into the air on a Falcon 9 to add to their already operational Starlink network that will do gigabit internet to any location on Earth. They continue to build that out. Think of it as Internet 2.0 and the biggest land grab in the history of mankind. They're going to do an order of magnitude better internet backbone than you enjoy now. Eventually, direct to the phone. 5G won't matter. Cell phones won't matter unless they can talk to Starlink. Meanwhile, Musk talks about being a multi-planetary species on Mars. Has Elon ever been to Mars that you know of? Do you know that Mars has 1% of the atmosphere of our beautiful green creation here, Earth? It's entirely hostile to life. Global warming wackos who are afraid of carbon dioxide. That's the entire atmosphere on Mars, and there's no water. Mars is in itself a nearby illustration of what most of the universe is, to give you a contrast to this beautiful green creation, planet Earth, that's so teeming with life 10 miles thick. It's in an ongoing, never-ending struggle to get a lunch without being a lunch worldwide. It's life so abundant, you can't hide from microbes. COVID-19. It's a battle just to be here. It's so abundant in life. Mars has no life, no water, no oxygen. I couldn't light a camel there. I have no water to make Dr. Pepper. If you're going to have anything, you got to bring it with you. And Elon Musk doesn't care a twat about Mars. He's quietly misdirecting like Dragon shot, so you don't notice that, yes, Pinky, we're going to do what we do every day, and that's try to take over the world. And he's got a great shot at it. I'll be first in line for Starlink. Actually, because I'm in Missouri, they always slot me toward the back of the pack for anything at Tesla. But I do like my Model Y. That is about a wrap. I want to thank all of you, the hundreds of comments on our last couple of videos. I can barely read without bursting into tears. Again, I want to reiterate that I don't make the plan as to my life. I follow it. It's set by my Lord God and Creator. If he wants me to work a little more, I'll do it. And if he doesn't, I'm ready to go home. I'm kind of shot, frankly. So I'm good with all of it. I am going through the steps of chemo and radiation. And very oddly, I suppose, I'm the only patient they've ever had who seems to thrive under radiation and chemo. I get no hair loss, no nausea, none of the usual things. They got me on some kind of steroid that really pumps me up on Thursdays when I get chemo. I actually look forward to it. I wind up staying up till midnight. I can't shut up. It's really, I'm thinking if they'll keep Major League Baseball open for their full, I may be the first guy to hit 40 home runs in 70 games. I got a shot at it on these steroids. So, the damnedest thing. I like radiation. I get kind of a faint whiff of barbecue pork shoulder every time I get it. And I love chemo. It's like, how do I get a lifetime prescription to this steroid? And I'm feeling pretty good. It's probably, in my mind, not a cure for anything, but a more, what do you call it, palliative treatment that I might be able to burn this little bastard enough to get my voice back. I really don't like not being able to speak. But the dying part, I don't have any fear of it at all. It's not a thing. So that's where we're at. I'm the first patient they've ever had that seems to thrive on radiation and chemo. I don't know, I even like all the attention of going and getting the treatments. It's kind of fun. Gets me out of bed in the morning. I know none of this sounds right to you, but I'm reporting what I see and feel, and it's all good. So I do appreciate prayers because I know what they are actually, and if you mention my name, it's kind of good for me. I don't really want you to pray for me to get well. You can pray for me to get well received. That would be better. But mention my name. It's cool. I'm in. I like it. So stay with us. I'm not gone yet.